All right, let's get started. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining. We're going to have about a 30-minute presentation. If you guys have questions, we might go a little bit longer, but we'll try to keep this pretty short. There's actually a ton of content to go through. We are going to show some live data in the system, so we will see some stuff live in the system. But for the most part, we're actually going to stay, and I hate PowerPoint presentations, but we're actually going to stay mostly in PowerPoint today just because the nature of a lot of these updates are more informative as opposed to visually pleasing for me to designate, for example, weighted average overtime is one of the things, and I'm not going to, spend time explaining weighted average overtime, but it's pretty cool some of the improvements that we've made around this area. So all that is to say, let's dive right in. This is for the April release, and just a heads up, I am going to give a little sneak peek of the June release, which is coming out tomorrow. Cross your fingers, sometimes it gets delayed, but the June release is coming out tomorrow. So I will give a little bit of a sneak peek for that. We're also going to talk a little bit about roadmap and some of the features that are coming down the pipeline for the October release and then for the December release as well. All right, so here's a little screen showing some of the focus for the current release. And when I say current release, I'm talking about the April release. So this is all stuff that happened, and I actually make it more confusing because the April release didn't end up happening until the first week of May. But this is for the April release that we're looking at here. So if you haven't had a chance to check any of these features out yet, all right, here's a little highlights list. So new career search page, position management's a real big one. So this is the idea of full-time equivalent tracking. Position management is something that's actually, from an engineering standpoint, has been tied in with virtually the entire system. So across all products, it's some real high-quality core functionality. So it's a bit of from an architecture standpoint, we had to go pretty deep to make those changes. I'm actually really excited about it. I know not every company uses position management, but this is an area of the system that's pretty powerful for those organizations that do use it. For anybody that has multiple EINs, we now have an HR action for EIN transfers. Very excited about that. That was a very tedious process in the past. Continued improvements on benefits administration and payroll usability. More and more features and functionality around that benefits administration, like evidence of insurability was a big one with this release, and a bunch of other things as well. Employee perspectives is a new area of the system, at least new as of last year. That's continuing to get attention. You're actually going to see employee perspectives releases every single release. So there's going to be new features around employee perspectives. And in case you missed, a couple months ago, we did a presentation on new features. In case you missed that, the employee perspectives is Kronos' attempt at a bit of a dashboard on analytics. So analytics centered specifically around the employee's performance. The other thing we're going to actually show today is attestation. All right, so attestation is the idea when you punch in, punch out, submit timesheets, you can have pop-up notifications happen on the screen, asking you, did you comply with this rule or that rule? Did you do this? Did you complete your meal for the day, kind of thing. Continued push towards timesheet workflows, new icons on the InTouch clock. All right, scheduling report enhancements. On the payroll side, the 2018 federal and state withholding forms are available. Most of you already know that already. But they're available. Notifications on voided checks is a new thing. So anytime you void a check, if you wanted emails to go out to different people to let them know what happened, sometimes that has effects throughout the organization that you need to address. A master data changes report. All right, so every time you process payroll, you can see a list of only the changes that happened during that pay period from the previous pay period. So that's something that's a little bit not new, not a little bit new. That's something that's new. Lots of ACA reporting enhancements with this release because that deadline was happening, so they had to get out. And then some GDPR compliance. A lot of features around GDPR compliance. So if you have any EU employees especially, that's something that can be important. And then specifically, and this is actually kind of cool because it's not just with GDPR compliance, but We also have retention that's coming as a part of that. So you'll be able to set retention policies in the system. So that's something that's new as a part of the GDPR compliance, but it carries over into other areas as well. All right. This is a straight copy of what we went through last time, but I wanted to highlight the mobile app. Lots and lots of attention around the mobile app. So we've got some push notifications. All right, so this might be hard to see on your screens, but this is showing a shift swap requested. But push notifications are now available on the new mobile app. All right, so anytime employee requests time off, I do it internally for my guys. Somebody requests time off, pops up on my phone, I click on it, and I can approve or reject that request right from my phone. So that's pretty cool. All right, we also have some benefits questionnaires. All right, so on the employee benefits side, when employees are enrolling in benefits, you can ask specific questions based on the specific plans that they've selected, or maybe on specific groups of employees if you offer different benefits to different groups of employees. So you can ask very more specific questions during that process. This is also pretty cool when in the new mobile app, when you're looking at your pay history. So if you're looking at your check stubs, there's now a button, a tab for direct deposits and for your withholding forms, and they can update their withholding forms and update their direct deposit information right from the mobile app. They can also offer their e-consent to receive their pay stubs and or W-2s electronically. So you can offer e-consent so they can e-consent so they can sign off that they want their direct deposits and W-2s electronically, which is kind of neat. All right, and then employees, if you're using the new advanced scheduler, employees can also accept and request schedule shift swaps. So if an employee says, hey, I need some coverage, will you cover me, Susie? And then Susie gets a push notification, clicks on the button, comes to the mobile app, and she can approve or reject that request. All right, and then here's a little sneak peek, and I'll show this again in a more interactive way. But this is what the new job site looks like. So for applicants that come to your web page and are looking for open positions that you may offer, all right, this is what it can look like on the right-hand side. All right, this is a part of the new user experience that we're rolling out, and we've been rolling out for over, I guess, about 8 months now. All right, here's some little screenshots of the new mobile app as well. So you can see the ability of somebody to look at a timesheet and manipulate a timesheet. And we also got a picture of their dashboard. I will have a copy of this slide available, so I'm not going to go through and read every item on this slide. But the purpose to demonstrate here is that there is a ton of new features in this release that are centered around the mobile app. All right, so in the past you can only do a very small number of things from the mobile app, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty useful, punching in, punching out, maybe looking at your pay stub. There are a couple things you could do on it. You can now do most things from the mobile app that an employee would want to do from the desktop web experience, and then manager functionality is also greatly increased as well. So managers can go in and do a lot of the things that they need to do right from the mobile app instead of having to log in to a desktop computer. All right, again, so this slide will be available for you guys to take a look at, and a recording of this will also be available for you guys to listen to again if you wanted to. I also wanted to highlight, all right, support.beyondpay.com. If you're not already using support, this is a great resource. And I'm just going to pull it up on the screen for a second here, zoom in a little bit. You're able to sign in to support.beyondpay.com. And you can sign in with your email and password. If you're not sure what your email and password is, you can click sign up if you know you've never been in here, or if you've ever sent an email, and you might laugh, but if you've ever sent an email to support@beyondpay.com, and I would imagine everybody on this call has sent an email to support@beyondpay.com, but if you've never yet logged in to support.beyondpay.com, you can come in right here and click on get a password, and that'll let you log in. You can also try signing with Google or Facebook or Twitter. Make sure you use your work email, whatever you send us to, in order to sign in with this. But this is how you can access, submit requests. You can upload files here. Lots of stuff that you can do and get content. A lot of the content's available without you having to sign in. So if you just go to support.beyondpay.com, a lot of this content is just readily available. But some stuff you only get if you log in and you're a customer. But I wanted to highlight on the support page, and you could search for this from the search bar, but if I come on down here to release notes, we have an entire section for release notes. And I've got my 2018 release notes, and the June release notes will be posted within the next week or so. All right. But you can find release notes right here. So I just wanted to highlight that. So you can get copies of the full release notes. And this is a very, very long list. You can drill down into details on each individual product. If we're looking at the April release notes and I click on HR, all right, that'll take us to the HR product release notes. All right, so it's a PDF that you can download and take a look at. So obviously tons, and I shouldn't say obviously, but a ton of release notes, as you can see in here. So this is just the HR product. So the HR product was 56 pages for the April release. All right, no better way for you to stay up to date. We try and do these calls, but we keep them short to keep people attentive and try to give the most important information. But it's hard to know what it might be important to you. So this is actually something, if you're responsible for your organization, reading through the release notes, while maybe tedious, is something that would be very beneficial to see what's going on and see what kind of features might be beneficial and helpful for you guys specifically. Of course, reach out to support@beyondpay.com, create a ticket, give us a call and ask what might be important to us, or what do you think in the new release, or something catches your eye to ask more information. Of course, do that. But I wanted to give you guys the link, support.beyondpay.com, to take a look at release notes. All right, here's a little bit of a roadmap from an overall perspective. And again, I'll make this slide available. Big focus on position management, succession planning, recruitment, and new employee engagement tools. Sometime October, maybe December, seen some previews on the integrated self-service learning side of things. So big focus on you guys being able to create your own learning content, not just for like BeyondPay HR, like using the system perspective, but actually like your own proprietary stuff, building in some learning tools that I'm excited about. So, lots of stuff around these kinds of areas. All right. Here's a little recap from succession planning. And I also mentioned a little bit earlier that we're going to be putting a big focus on team perspectives. All right, so in the lower left-hand quadrant here, this is team's perspectives. It gives you the ability to analyze things and categorize them. So for example, performance might be based on, maybe have commissions. So based on reaching certain commission goals, performance is good. Maybe based on their performance reviews that you do, can be based on performance. Reliability might be based on things like how many times did you leave early for a shift, or how many times did you have an absence for a shift that wasn't corresponding with a time off request or something like that. All right, so you're able to analyze things like incident tracking on the HR system. So how many incidents did I have, or certain types of incidents, and that can drive my scores. So this dashboard specifically is showing us the salary planned. So for salaried employees, we have some succession planning going on. All right, so who's meeting, what's my plan for filling the important positions on this for the salaried employees? But then in the lower left-hand corner, I have, okay, what's going on with my hourly employees? I'm concerned about performance. Are they happy? Are we, what kind of things can we try and gain some perspectives on? Hence the name Team Perspectives. That's the idea centered around this. All right, so lots and lots of features centered around this. There's an entire user guide centered around perspectives. And again, reach out to support@beyondpay.com if you want some more info on that. All right, again, some roadmap information. All right, I'm not going to go through all of them. Some timekeeping. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these either. A scheduler roadmap. All right. All right, so let's dive into the system. We're looking more of a live fashion. I'm going to log in as a couple employees in a demo company. We're going to take a look at position management. All right, so for anybody that hasn't seen position management, you'll get a real brief demo. We're not going to go, this won't take too long, a couple minutes. I just wanted to highlight, though, that we now have the ability, specifically in this feature, to import employees. So in the past, it was a little tricky to make assignments for positions. So if you had more than 20 positions, it could get very, very tedious to assign those positions to employees, which kind of made it maybe not pointless, but very tedious to actually set up. So now we can import employee assignments to positions along with budget details on positions. There's also assignment history reporting now for positions, so you can see as employees move to different positions in the organizations. There's an employee widget being brought in. We're doing some succession planning tie-ins, additional reports, workflow ties, right? So we need to be able to send notifications based on position, people that are in different positions potentially. We've got some rate assignments. So if an employee is making $10 an hour and we assign them to a position that's going to have a budget of 1,000 hours, it's going to automatically bring in those budget amounts based on their base compensation. All right, and then we're going to take a look at the master data change report, and we'll take a look at attestation as well. I think I actually start with attestation so I don't forget about it. All right, so let's jump into the system here. Yeah, we'll start with attestation because I'm right on that screen. So we're taking a look right now, give you some context. I'm logged in as an employee. All right, so I'm logged in as Ashley Nelson. She's got a schedule. She's to work from 9 to 5. Notice she left early yesterday, so we have a little exception flagged for her. She punched in this morning at 8:27 a.m., and let's just pretend for a second that she's getting ready to clock out for the day. All right, so it looks like she had to end her shift a little bit early. So I click the clock out button. And the idea of attestation is that we can pop up information, all right? We can pop up a request and ask them a question, all right? So I just punched out at 1:19 on 6/13. Did you take a meal today of at least 20 minutes? All right, so this is a very common one, especially if you're in a state like California that requires that you take meals and rest periods. So you can ask your employees questions, give them a place to put some comments in here. It can show a little punch summary right in the system as well. And then you can also customize these buttons. I have it saying affirm, negative, cancel, but you can actually customize those buttons of what they say as well. And I'll go ahead and affirm this. And now I can also provide reporting on this and or notifications and as a part of a workflow. So what I mean by that is, let's say the person affirms, we're not going to do anything with that. We're going to store it. We're going to have it in the system. It's reportable. We'll know that they affirmed that they took a lunch, but we're not going to do anything else with it. But if they said, no, I didn't take a lunch, maybe we need to send an email to their manager. We're going to send an email to the employee saying, hey, you just said that you didn't take a lunch. Just know that it's the policy of this company that you always take a lunch. We're going to send an email to the manager saying, hey, this person didn't take a lunch. This means we have to pay them a meal penalty. You need to talk to your employee about making sure that they take that lunch. We can set different flags for exceptions at this point. We can send emails out to whomever you want. And then we also have that status set in the system for you to run whatever reports you have run. That can also tie into your employee perspectives, right? So that can tie into employee perspectives and update their scorecard. Attestation is now available on the InTouch clocks. So it'll pop up on the InTouch clock to prompt them. And it'll also work now on dot clock if you're using the kiosk mode, or if you're using the clocks on dot clock. If you're not sure what I'm talking about or what that means, feel free to email support@beyondpay.com. We can help you out with that as well. If you're not using attestation and want to, let us know about that as well. All right, another feature. Let me log out as Ashley now. And we'll log in more as an admin now. All right, so now we're logged in as an admin on the company. And let's take a look at, here's another example of that team perspectives. All right, so we can assign, I've got happiness, performance, and reliability assigned. All right, let's take a look at a payroll. All right, now you may have noticed this, you may not have with the last release. There's now this little pin button. All right, with our menus. So if you pin this, it'll preserve the menu and keep that menu there. So now I have my data over here. I can click on menus on the left, and I can keep my screen on the right pinned. And I can also always click that X, and it would hide that screen. So that's kind of a newish feature. The other thing you may have noticed is when you're doing sync time or when you initiate payroll, it no longer takes you to a different screen. It takes you back to the payroll prep screen. So that can be it's a little different. All right, there's also this master data change report. So I can click on this as one of my reports. And by default, it's going to show you just the data for this specific pay period. All right, and notice there's a box right here that I think is kind of handy. In the past, there's like one line for changing the state, one line for changing the city, one line for changing the ad. So you can combine that into one row anytime you have an address change. Of course, this report can be customized just like any other report in the system, but this is just showing you the audit trail records, and it's not quite the same as an audit trail record. So there's some different, there were some different filters that went into figuring out which items are going to show on this report and which items are not. So, you know, if you want to see a detailed every change that possibly happened with an employee, you still need to use the audit trail. But this is showing things that are a little bit more payroll related that happened during the previous pay period. All right. Now, more fun. All right, so I'm going to use my search bar over here. We're going to look at positions, and let's take a look at a hierarchy chart. All right, now a note before we start talking about positions. You may notice that my screen might look a little bit different than yours. Okay, so of what you're used to, and I'm going to show a couple more screens in just a little bit of what we're calling our Mercury experience. All right, so you might hear us internally reference Mercury. We try not to mention that word to everybody, but just in case you hear that, the Mercury experience is something that Kronos is working on, and that's this new, user look and feel. All right, so one of the first steps in this is the new mobile app. All right, and the new mobile app has a certain look and feel to it. And one of the things you'll notice right away with the mobile app is that it looks so much different than the traditional desktop experience. So one of the first things we're doing is we have a new theme available that's ready now. You guys can sign up for it. I'd actually recommend that you sign up for it. It doesn't cost anything extra, but it does require us to do a little bit of work. So you have to request it, and it has to be, we'll go through the details with you. But if you click on this show menu in the upper left, this is your new menu. So if you have a menu that looks like this, you're on the new UI, all right? If you have a menu that has your menus along the top, you're still on the old UI. And I would recommend putting some plans in place to transition to the new UI. And the reason I say that is we're slowly going to be changing a lot of the different screens that show up on the new UI. So there's going to be features. For example, this position hierarchy chart, this will only be available in the new UI. All right, so we're not breaking anything. We're not changing any functionality that's existing on the existing UI, but we are providing new pages, new screens, new dashboards, new reports, new graphs, charts that may only be available on the new UI. So, we're going to be pushing this in the coming months, but it's probably a good idea to start thinking about transitioning. If you're not using the new mobile app, definitely request that and sign up for it. It's a lot better. You're going to like it. It's a pretty easy rollout to your employees. You can keep the old app and the new app running at the same time if you wanted to kind of help roll it out to certain groups. But you're going to see a ton of features in these releases centered around the new mobile app and centered around the new user interface. So it is going to be important that you put a plan in place for transitioning to the new screens. All right, so with that, this is a look at position management. All right, so we're looking at a position hierarchy chart, and it works very similar to the org chart that's in there now. I can search by position. All right, so I can start typing in accountant or security guard, right? So you can start searching for that. You can also click here and then get your traditional filter list. I can also click on the left-hand side. All right, so show me my co-manager, and I click on co-manager, and then it drills down to my co-manager. All right, let's go back to my CEO. Go to the CEO level. I can kind of see things. So a couple things here. Notice I've got this 1 FTE, 0 vacant FTEs. So I'm starting to, again, this is a part of position management where we're starting to think about full-time equivalents. All right, and then I can see who reports to the CEO. And then if I scroll down, I can also see who reports to, so CEO goes to the co-manager, and then the co-manager has an accountant, has an assistant to the regional manager, and has a salesman. All right, the operations manager's got customer support representative, it's got a security guard, it's got technical support specialist. All right, I can see in my security guards that they were budgeted for 3 full-time equivalents, and I've got negative 0.75 vacancies. So I'm over budgeting right now. I've got an extra, almost a total employee too much in my security guard position for whatever reason. Whereas in customer support, I've got I'm missing 2 full-time equivalents that I wanted to have 4.5. It looks like I only have about 2.5 that are filling the position so far. All right, so that's some stuff we can see from there. I can also drill down and see details on this. So, let's look at co-manager here. Actually, let's pick a different one. Let's do salesman. So I can drill down into a salesman. And notice I have a budget for this position. So I've got four full-time equivalents. I'd like to notify if I exceed the FTE. I'm allowing it though. You could potentially disallow it. I'm also got a budget, so I'd like to keep within $325,000 per year. But I do allow to go over that budget. I just want to be notified. And then a budget of hours, and I can also effective date these. So if I want to change my budget requirements throughout the year, I may do so. And then I can see, okay, how many people are assigned. I've got 3.5 assigned. Here's my total amount, and this is based on their base compensation. And this is an allocated base compensation, so it's based on your full-time equivalency. So if somebody's a salaried employee, they're making $50,000 a year, 50% they're a half FTE in the salesman job and a half FTE in the customer support job. It's going to take the 50,000 times 50% and put 25,000 allocated for this budget. All right, I can also set who this position reports to and who indirectly reports to position. All right, so the salesperson reports to the co-manager. I can also, and this is pretty cool, I can also set permissions based on my position. So if I want to set permissions relative to my direct subordinates versus my indirect subordinates, this works very similarly to your group permissions. So can I approve time? All right, can I approve time off requests? Can I manage their schedule? All right, so this is potentially replacing group permissions if you're using position management. Come back up to the top. I've also got my stuff like job titles. This is what shows up in applicant tracking. I've got my, is this a critical position? This ties into succession management. How difficult is it to fill? What departments and cost centers do I need to assign to this position? Do I allow overrides or not? I can have notes associated with this position and upload supporting documents, skills and job settings. That ties into scheduler and HR and applicant tracking. I also have what employees are assigned to the position, right? So which employees are assigned and what's their full-time equivalents. We can drill down into details on them. All right, so entirely new area. Let's take a look at another screen that I think maybe helps round this out a little bit. Position headcount summary. So once we have employees assigned to our positions, this is now where we can come in for some reporting and figure out, okay, based on each position that I have, all right, and you can group and categorize positions, by the way, as well. But based on my positions that I have, how many FTEs, how many employees are assigned, and as I come to the right, let's get rid of this menu now. Do I have any vacancies? Am I exceeding the budget? What's my total assigned amount versus the budget? Am I exceeding the budget by dollar value? Am I exceeding the budget by hours values? All right, so the concept again here is that we have these positions, we're allocating a budget for those positions, and now we're providing some tools to figure out, okay, who's assigned these positions, and then within those positions, am I meeting my budget requirements? Now I can actually report on those budget requirements, and it's all effective date driven. So if my budget year is coming up, and as of September 1st, I've got a new budget year, and with all new budgets, I can now load that. It can all be imported from an Excel spreadsheet, by the way, as well. That's one of the new features that's in this release. And so that's the idea of position management. A couple other reports centered around it. I'm not going to go through them today, but again, there is an entire user guide. So if you come into the menu and you go to Our Company and then Service Provider Documents, all right, this is where we post all the user guides. All right, so you can get your position management user guide here as well. Just note that it might need to be turned on. So if it's not already turned on, it does require Core HR Enterprise as well. So if you're not using HR Enterprise, you can't use position management. But if you are, then we might just need to turn it on for you. So reach out at support@beyondpay.com. The other thing I always like to highlight, oops, I'm logged in as an SA. Give me 1 second here. Let's log in as Kathy real quick. So Kathy is an administrator on the system, much like many of you are administrators. All right, so one of the other things that not everybody takes advantage of, but we put a lot of energy, effort under My Account, My Learning. There's a lot of stuff in here for learning about the system and how the system works in different areas. So if you wanted to come into Administrator Human Resources, we've got some job aids on various areas of the system. So this is kind of a nice way if you're curious about areas of the system that maybe you're not familiar with, or maybe that you haven't yet set up in the system. It can give you an idea of what kind of features and functionality might exist. User guides are good for that too, but sometimes reading through user guides are a little dry. So some of these videos can be helpful. All right. All right, so just a brief sneak peek here. All right, so this is the June 2018 release. Again, it's scheduled for tomorrow night. All right, notice Edge support finally. All right, so we've had IE 10 and 11 support for a while, but Microsoft Edge has been elusive for support. It's kind of worked, but there's been a couple of different issues. It's now fully working. All right, so as of this next release, Edge is supported. There's some new data retention functionality. There's going to be a new, and there's actually an entire user guide on this available now. But you can basically assign a profile to an employee, and then you can set the system to automatically delete that employee after a certain amount of days, months, years after termination. So it doesn't delete all their history necessarily, but it'll delete all the personal data, personal identifiable data centered around that employee. So it'll randomize their employee ID. It'll randomize, just delete the name. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in that, or reach out and ask. But that's a new feature that's available. All right, there's going to be a new hierarchy chart. So I just showed you the existing hierarchy chart. With the next new release that we do, I'll be able to show you a new one. It looks really cool. Not allowed to show it to you yet. We've got checklists. All right, checklists, specifically around the mobile app. So in the past, you could never do this kind of stuff from the mobile app. You can now onboard employees from the mobile app. So again, that new mobile app is going to become very important. This is a really cool feature. I'm really excited about this one. Because you can now do HR actions. All right, so making changes for HR, you can do them through the mobile app, and now you can also take care of your new onboarding employee checklists. All right, this is one that's much needed, the payroll recap and funding. In the past, many of you know that when you close payroll and look at the payroll recap and funding report, the numbers say one thing, and then when you click the finalize button, the numbers now say a different thing. Finally, now that when you close payroll, that's going to be accurate. It was namely centered around vendors and BeyondPay's invoice. So those are the two numbers that generally messed up your cash requirements. So now before you finalize, you'll be able to see what your total cash required is going to be, basically what your debit is going to be from the bank. And my favorite release, and I hope maybe you noticed this on the email that went out, but Touch ID on the mobile app. All right, so we're going to have Touch ID on the mobile app. This is going to make it much, much easier to log into the new mobile app. So, rather than having to type username and password, get your virtual code support if you haven't logged in the last 30 days. All right, now with the Touch ID, you're going to be able to just place your finger on your phone device to log you into our app. Really excited about this. Really popular. Note that iPhone X is not supported. I'm pretty sure the reason was because iPhone X is the one that did like the face recognition, right? You might have seen those commercials. So that's not supported yet, but Touch ID on Android and iPhone, other than the iPhone X, is going to be available very shortly. All right, so here's another little sneak peek slide. All right, this is not necessarily for tomorrow's release. This is actually more of a forward thinking. This is showing some time off requests on the mobile app. It's showing the employee setup. So an employee going through, maybe a new employee going through their checklists. All right, we got a shift swap and then push notifications again. Also, if you do use the new user experience, all right, the new user experience, you're going to have a common header, but we're going to start embedding new pages in here. So I mentioned this earlier that if you don't upgrade to the new theme, all right. So and it's a free upgrade. It's a simple change. It's just going to make everything, when you log in, the menu is going to be on the left instead of along the top. But until you do that, you're not going to have access to some of the newer features and the newer reports. So this is showing a view of the new charts that's coming out. All right, so this is another new feature. You'll be able to assign charts based on data in the system, and they can be embedded in your existing reports, and they can also be sent via email and included in exports. So stay tuned for more info on that. All right, and then you'll also see this menu on the left-hand side. We're trying to organize it and make it easier to use, easier to look at, easier to organize information. You'll notice some search bars coming in, built in, so you can actually search for items right from the menu. Kind of like when you click the Start menu on your computer. If you're and you want to like search for something, you just start typing the name of what you want. All right, and here's a view of the reports. And again, this idea that you can have a report that's showing the data on the top, and you can start building graphs that are relevant to that data and have those as a part of your exports. So when you export this to a PDF, it's going to look like this. And when you email it and use an HTML version of the email, you're going to have it look like this when you receive it in your inbox. So this is getting a lot of positive feedback so far. So coming soon. All right, and then this is more of an October, December sneak peek, but we're going to have some built-in dashboards centered around talent management, recruitment, and each of the products. So employee perspectives, points, performance, succession planning. We're going to have some built-in dashboards that are a little bit more relevant, and we're tweaking the look and feel a little bit so they look a little cooler. So again, this is coming soon. All right. Not a ton of time for questions today. All right, so I think we'll probably, so for those of you that did ask some questions, I'll follow up with you individually. All right. But I do have maybe time, let's see. Actually, this is a good one. Yeah, Mary, so you just put in chat, how do we upgrade to the new interface? Does our support rep need to do that for us? Good question. Yes, the support rep does need to upgrade to the new interface. All right, so there's kind of two components here. The new interface is very, very easy to switch. In fact, you can turn it on and play with it for 30 minutes and then say, oh, you know what, let's hold off on this and we can switch it back. Really, really easy to do the new interface. So, and when I say the new interface, I'm talking about this menu on the left-hand side. All right, so this is very, very easy to switch and to do. That's something that you guys could request from your support rep. Technically, you probably even have the ability to do it. It just depends on your security profile access. But I would reach out to support and they can do that for you. But the second part of this is the new mobile app. And the mobile app does require a little bit more thought and planning. So with the mobile app, you need to be using start end all days or a bulk hours timesheet, and you need to be using workflows for timesheet and time off request approvals. So if those three things aren't in place, and there's actually one other thing, but if those things aren't in place, we can't switch you to the new mobile app yet, but we can help you transition to using those features. All right, and again, we're doing this for no cost. We want to encourage you to switch to the new mobile app. So, but yeah, for the new interface, that one's really, really easy to do, and I'd recommend everybody do it. But the new mobile app is a little bit more involved. You do need to request that, and we need to put together a plan for rolling that out to your users. Just know that you can use both the new mobile app and the old mobile app. You can't use the new user interface and the old user interface. You can't assign some employees to use the new interface and other employees to use the old interface. But good question. Thanks for asking that. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time, energy, attention. We will be doing some more of these to try and keep you in the loop on new features, but I definitely encourage you guys to check out support.beyondpay.com, read through the release notes in more detail. I only covered a small fraction of what's coming down the pipeline, and then also stay tuned for the release notes and new release that's coming out hopefully tomorrow. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day.